The explosion that tore through the Queen's apartment building at 2:47 p.m. was precisely timed to maximize news coverage without exceeding acceptable civilian casualty projections. Vaught's analytics team had calculated the optimal blast radius. The structural engineer had identified load-bearing walls that would collapse photogenically, and the Seven's publicist had already drafted 3 versions of the post-rescue press release. What nobody had calculated was the possibility of a 6-foot-tall woman in ancient armor materializing midair above the inferno, her arrival marked by a thunderclap that shattered windows for 2 blocks. Diana of Themyscira had been fighting Ares when reality fractured. One moment she'd been deflecting the god of war's blade with her braces. The next, she was falling through a screaming void of broken dimensions, divine magic tearing itself apart around her. She'd landed hard in mortal air, thick with smoke and lies, instincts screaming danger even before her boots touched the crumbling fire escape. Below, people were dying. Above, something wearing a cape and American flag smiled for cameras while a building burned. She dove without hesitation. The rescue happened too fast for Vaught's cameras to properly capture. Diana moved through the collapsing structure like smoke, her enhanced speed letting her navigate falling debris that would have crushed ordinary humans. She found a family of 4 trapped behind a jammed door on the 3rd floor. Parents shielding 2 children, the father's arm already burned trying to break through. Diana tore the reinforced door off its hinges with one hand, scooped up all 4 with the other, and was back in the street before the ceiling collapsed behind her. She was pulling her 6th survivor from the rubble when Homelander finally stopped posing for the news helicopters and actually entered the building. They met in the lobby, Diana carrying an elderly man who'd been trapped under a support beam, Homelander emerging from the stairwell with a blonde woman in a designer dress who didn't have a single smudge on her expensive heels. The disconnect was instant and visceral. "Who the fuck are you?" Homelander asked, smile never wavering, laser eyes flickering red beneath his lenses. Diana ignored him, getting the elderly man to the paramedics. When she turned back, Homelander had drifted closer, floating 3 inches off the ground in a display of casual power. Behind him, more figures emerged. A woman with red hair crackling with electricity, another blonde in a white and gold costume that screamed corporate design, a black man vibrating with barely contained speed. The 7. She'd heard the news crew screaming their names like prayers. "I asked you a question," Homelander said, voice still friendly, eyes still glowing. "People are dying," Diana replied, her accent placing her nowhere these mortals would recognize. "I suggest you help them instead of performing for cameras." The temperature dropped. The speedster, A-Train the news was calling him, actually took a step back. The woman in white and gold, Starlight, young and trying too hard to smile, looked like Diana had just spoken treason. Homelander's grin widened. "Oh, I like you." The rest of the rescue was chaos. Diana pulled 12 more people from the building before structural collapse made further attempts suicide. Homelander laser-eyed through a few support beams for the cameras. Queen Maeve threw a truck to clear the area. And Starlight made some lights flash while looking increasingly uncomfortable with the whole production. When the fires were finally extinguished and the news crews had enough footage, a swarm of people in Vought corporate attire descended on the scene like locusts. A woman in a burgundy power suit pushed through the crowd with the confidence of someone who owned everything she saw. "Hi, I'm Ashley Barrett, VP of Hero Management at Vought International. We need to talk right now." Diana had barely opened her mouth when Ashley grabbed her armored wrist with shocking boldness. "Not here, not with cameras." "Jesus Christ, do you have any idea what you just did to our Q3 projections?" They dragged her to Vought Tower in a black SUV that smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Diana watched the city slide past, taking in the corporate logos on every surface, the massive billboards of Homelander's face selling everything from sneakers to credit cards. This world's heroes were products. She'd seen conquering armies with more subtlety than this civilization's worship of the powerful. The tower itself was an obscenity of glass and steel, corporate sterility masking something Diana's Amazonian instincts identified as profoundly wrong. They took her to the 82nd floor, past security checkpoints that would have stopped an invading army, into a conference room where a woman with auburn hair and a smile like a knife was already waiting. "Diana Prince," the woman said, reading from a tablet she shouldn't have been able to fill with information so quickly. "Though that's not your real name, is it? No social security number, no employment history, no digital footprint whatsoever. You simply appeared above Queens 37 minutes ago and proceeded to severely complicate what should have been a very straightforward marketing opportunity." Madeline Stillwell, Diana identified, her gift for reading people cutting through corporate polish to the predator beneath. "You staged that explosion. Those people died for a press opportunity." The room went silent. Ashley made a strangled sound. Madeline's smile never flickered. "I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about," Madeline said smoothly. "But I do know that you just became the most viral video on the internet. Mysterious superpowered woman appears from nowhere, upstages the Seven, and disappears into the sunset. Except you didn't disappear. You're here, which means we can help each other." "I need to return to my world," Diana said, "and we'd love to help you do that, after we figure out where you came from, how you got here, and how your powers work." Madeline leaned forward. "But in the meantime, you need money, housing, legal status in a country where you technically don't exist. Vought can provide all of that. In exchange, you join the Seven for a provisional period while we work on getting you home. I will not be purchased. Nobody's purchasing anything. We're offering employment." Madeline pulled out a contract thick enough to kill someone. "Standard superhero services agreement. You help people, we handle the logistics, and everyone wins." Diana looked at the contract, then at the city visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Somewhere out there, families were mourning people who died in a fire started for ratings. This world needed help. These heroes needed to be held accountable. And Diana had a lasso that compelled truth from anyone it touched. "I will review your contract," she said carefully, "but I have conditions." Madeline's predatory smile widened. "I was hoping you'd say that. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, smash that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below." Fucking diabolical. The conference room Vought provided for Diana's orientation had walls made of glass that she could shatter with a thought and locks that wouldn't slow her for a heartbeat. They didn't know that yet. They saw an attractive woman in ancient armor and assumed leverage, control, eventual compliance. Diana had seen this pattern for 3,000 years. Men in power believing women were puzzles to solve or obstacles to remove. Ashley Barrett speed-talked through the presentation like her life depended on every word landing perfectly. The Seven is America's premier superhero team, with a 98% approval rating and $13.7 billion in annual merchandising revenue. You'd be joining at a transformative moment. We just lost Translucent in what we're calling a tragic industrial accident, and the market is hungry for fresh narratives. "Translucent?" Diana asked. "Invisible guy. Had a thing about watching people without consent. Died in an explosion." Ashley's eye twitched. Very sad. "Moving on. Your brand potential is off the charts. Ancient warrior princess, classical aesthetics, ties into the whole Greek mythology trend that's been huge since those Percy Jackson movies. We're thinking Wonder Woman as the official designation, though legal is still clearing trademark issues with some comic book company." Diana's hand moved to the lasso of truth coiled at her hip. The golden cord thrummed with power, responding to the ocean of lies filling this corporate tomb. "You said you would help me return home. Absolutely. We have a whole department for that. Ashley pulled up a slide showing what looked like a scientific facility. Sage Grove Center for Advanced Research, top scientists studying superhuman phenomena. If anyone can figure out interdimensional travel, it's them. But these things take time, funding, institutional support. If you're part of the Seven, you get priority access to every resource Vought has. The unspoken threat was clear. Refuse, and Diana would be lost in a world without legal existence, money, or allies. Except, and she'd have the resources to find her way home. Simple corporate extortion dressed in friendly efficiency. "I want to see this research facility," Diana said. "Of course, we'll schedule a tour for next week after you've settled in and done the initial press rounds. Speaking of which," Ashley gestured and the wall screen lit up with footage from the Queen's rescue. Diana watched herself move through the chaos, pulling people from fire while Homelander posed. The contrast was damning. "This has 47 million views and climbing. People are calling you everything from angel to alien. We need to get ahead of the narrative before conspiracy theories make you unmarketable." "I'm not a product to be marketed." "Everyone's a product in this world, honey." The voice came from the doorway, where Queen Maeve leaned against the frame with the posture of a woman who'd stopped giving a fuck years ago. She was stunning up close. Red hair, strong features, costume that probably cost more than a car. Also drunk. Diana could smell the vodka sweating through her pores. "Might as well be an expensive one." Ashley's professional smile cracked slightly. "Maeve, the orientation isn't until I'm orientating. Kid needs to know what she's signing up for." Maeve walked in with the careful precision of someone maintaining sobriety through willpower alone. She dropped into a chair and studied Diana with eyes that had seen too much. "Let me guess. Ashley told you about the great benefits, the opportunity to help people, how the Seven are real American heroes. Did she mention the NDAs, the morality clauses? The fact that Vought owns every aspect of your public life, including your goddamn name?" "Maeve." Ashley's voice carried a warning. "What? She'll figure it out anyway. Better to know before she signs." Maeve turned back to Diana. "Here's what they won't tell you. The Seven aren't heroes. We're actors in capes. Every rescue is scheduled, every crisis is manufactured or opportunistically exploited. And the actual helping people part is secondary to making sure the cameras catch our best angles. You seem like you actually give a shit about civilians. That's gonna get real disappointing real fast." Diana studied the older hero, seeing past the alcoholism to the warrior beneath. "You were not always this cynical." "No, I used to believe in this bullshit." Maeve's laugh was bitter. "Then I spent 15 years watching Vought turn heroism into merchandise and convinced the world it was the same thing. You'll figure it out too. Question is whether you'll break or just bend like the rest of us." The door opened again and Homelander glided in with the casual confidence of a predator entering familiar territory. He'd changed from his costume into designer casual wear that probably cost more than most people made in a month, but somehow still looked like he was wearing a uniform. America's flag made flesh, if the flag was a narcissistic psychopath with laser vision. "Ladies," he said, smile bright and empty. "Hope I'm not interrupting." "We were just finishing Diana's orientation," Ashley said, tension crackling in her voice. The fear was palpable. Everyone in this room was terrified of Homelander except Maeve, who was too drunk to care, and Diana, who'd fought actual gods. Homelander ignored Ashley entirely, his attention locked on Diana like a targeting laser. "I've been thinking about you. You're strong, really strong. I saw you tear through that building's infrastructure like it was cardboard, not Compound V strong. Something else. I do not know this Compound V you speak of." The temperature in the room shifted. Homelander's smile widened. "Really? That's fascinating? See, every superhero in America got their powers from compound phi. It's what makes us super. But you're saying you're something different, something natural. My gifts are from the gods of Olympus. Homelander laughed, the sound sharp and manic. Gods. Right, that's adorable. He floated closer, feet leaving the ground in a display of casual power. Here's what I think. You're either delusional, lying, or you actually are something new. And new things in my world need to be very carefully evaluated before they become problems. Diana stood, bringing herself eye to eye with the floating soup. 3,000 years of combat experience, read his body language. Coiled violence, narcissistic rage barely contained, power without restraint or morality. She'd killed men like him in wars mortals no longer remembered. I am not your problem unless you make me one, she said quietly. Oh, I like you, Homelander repeated, laser eyes flickering beneath his lenses. You've got fire, that's good. The Seven needs someone with actual spine since Maeve decided to pickle hers. He glanced at the alcoholic hero, who raised a middle finger without looking up. Tell you what, come to tonight's 7 meeting, 7 p.m. top floor conference room. You'll meet the whole team, see how we operate. Then you can decide if you want to join the best fucking superhero team in the world. And if I decline your invitation? Homelander's smile never wavered, but something cold and terrible flickered across his face. Then I guess you'll be trying to navigate this world without friends, money, legal status, or any idea how to get home. Your choice, princess. But I'd choose carefully if I were you. He floated out without waiting for a response, Ashley scurrying after him like a terrified assistant. Maeve remained, refilling a coffee cup from a flask she pulled from inside her costume. That was Homelander being friendly, Maeve said into the silence. Cross him and things get significantly less pleasant. He's the most powerful super in the world and the most fragile ego you'll ever meet. Dangerous combination. He does not frighten me. Then you're either stupid or you really are a god. Maeve stood, steadier now with fresh alcohol in her system. Either way, welcome to the Seven. Try not to get yourself killed before you figure out what the hell you've walked into. The apartment Vought provided was on the 77th floor with a view of Manhattan that probably cost more per month than most Americans made in a year. Modern furniture in neutral tones, smart TV already logged into streaming services, kitchen stocked with organic food from brands Diana didn't recognize. The kind of luxury prison designed to make captivity comfortable enough to be mistaken for freedom. Diana stood at the window watching the sun set over a city that worshipped corporate gods, her armor still on, still ready for battle. Somewhere in this steel and glass labyrinth, people were dying. Somewhere, the truth was being strangled by lawyers and marketing departments. She'd left her island to bring truth and justice to man's world. She just never imagined man's world could become this corrupted. Her phone, provided by Vought, already loaded with apps and a custom ringtone, buzzed with a calendar reminder, 7-team meeting, 7 p.m., conference room A, 99th floor, 30 minutes. She arrived early, because warriors who arrive late often don't arrive at all. The 99th floor was pure Vought excess. Art that cost millions, furniture that looked expensive and uncomfortable, floor-to-ceiling windows showing a city that looked like a circuit board from this height. The conference room itself had a table that could seat 20 and only 7 chairs, each one marked with a superhero logo that glowed faintly with internal LEDs. Starlight was already there, changed into civilian clothes that somehow made her look younger and more vulnerable. She startled when Diana entered, coffee sloshing from her cup. Oh, Diana. Hi. Sorry. I'm just... She gestured helplessly at nothing. I didn't expect anyone else to show up early. I prefer to assess my surroundings before others arrive, Diana said, noting the exits, the security cameras, the glass walls that could be both shield and weapon. You are Starlight, Annie January, from Iowa, Vaught's newest recruit before my arrival. You looked me up. I observed you during the rescue. You seem uncomfortable with how the Seven operates." Annie's professional smile cracked. For a moment, Diana saw the frightened girl beneath the corporate superhero shell. Is it that obvious? To someone watching, yes. To those who don't wish to see, no. Diana moved closer, keeping her voice low despite the empty room. You joined believing you would help people. Instead, you discovered you joined a performance where helping people is secondary to looking good doing it. Annie looked toward the cameras, then back to Diana. I can't talk about this here. Cannot or will not. Both. Annie's hands trembled slightly around her coffee cup. Look, I don't know what you are or where you came from, but if you're smart, you'll sign Vought's contract, smile for the cameras and play along. Fighting them just gets you hurt or disappeared. I have faced conquerors and tyrants for 3,000 years, child. I do not fear corporate executives. Then you don't understand what Vought is. Annie's voice dropped to barely a whisper. They own everything, the news, the politicians, the police. If you try to expose them, they'll destroy you, and no one will even know it happened because they'll control the story. Please, just be careful. The door swung open, and the Deep swaggered in, wearing a wetsuit-style costume that left little to imagination, and even less to respect. He was handsome in the way that men who spent hours on their appearance often were. Calculated, artificial, desperate for validation. Diana's Amazonian senses picked up insecurity masked by bravado, sexual predation barely restrained by thin socialization. Well, the mystery woman. The Deep looked Diana up and down with an appreciation that made Annie physically recoil. Gotta say, that ancient warrior look is really working for you. Very exotic. Your disrespect is noted, Diana said flatly. Disrespect? I was giving you a compliment. The Deep grinned, moving closer. You're new, so here's some free advice. Lighten up. The Seven is a family. We take care of each other, especially the pretty ones. He reached out to touch her arm. Diana caught his wrist mid-motion, her grip iron firm, but not quite breaking bones. Yet, touch me without permission again, and you will lose the hand, she said quietly. The Deep's grin froze. His fingers flexed uselessly in her grip. Jesus, okay. I was just being friendly. You were being predatory. I have killed men for less. She released him and he stumbled back, rubbing his wrist. The bravado evaporated, revealing the insecure boy beneath. Before he could respond, A-Train vibrated into the room, moving so fast he appeared to teleport, skidding to a stop by the coffee machine. Fuck, am I late? Ashley said 7 sharp, and if I'm late again, she'll... He noticed Diana and froze. Oh, the new girl. Diana, right? I'm A-Train, fastest man alive. Currently ranked number 2 in the 7 behind Homelander, 3-time winner of... I know who you are, Diana interrupted. I saw you at the rescue. You barely entered the building. A-Train's corporate smile twitched. That's because Queen Maeve and Homelander had the interior covered. I was on perimeter control, making sure no secondary threats. You were standing still for the cameras while people burned. The room went silent. A-Train's eyes narrowed, the friendly mask slipping to reveal calculation beneath. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about, as do you. Queen Maeve entered before A-Train could respond, looking slightly more sober than earlier, but no less bitter. She assessed the tension in the room and laughed. Already making friends, I see. That's a new record. Black Noir slipped in behind her, silent as death. The masked hero moved to his chair without acknowledging anyone, body language radiating danger. Diana studied him. Assassin's grace, combat training evident in every controlled movement, something broken beneath the silence. He noticed her watching and tilted his head slightly, an acknowledgement. Warrior, recognizing warrior. Right, Maeve said, dropping into a chair. Since Homelander's running late being Homelander somewhere, let's establish ground rules. Diana, you're on trial period. That means you attend meetings, you show up for photo ops, you don't fuck up anything that could hurt the Seven's brand. You do that for 90 days, and Vought decides if you're marketable enough to keep. I am not cattle to be judged market-worthy. No, your talent to be evaluated for commercial viability. Different words, same meaning. Maeve pulled out her flask openly now, past caring who saw. Welcome to corporate heroism. The doors burst open, and Homelander strode in with Ashley trailing behind like a terrified shadow. America's greatest hero had changed back into his costume, cape swirling dramatically despite the lack of wind. He surveyed his team with a smile that never reached his eyes. 7, he announced. Look at us. America's finest. Well, almost. We're still one down since Translucent's unfortunate industrial accident. His gaze settled on Diana. But maybe not for long. He floated to the head of the table, positioning himself above everyone else, even in a seated meeting. Ashley scurried to dim the lights and activate the screen behind him. Let's talk about your future, Diana. Homelander's presentation had the slick production value of a Pentagon briefing merged with a Hollywood pitch meeting. Charts showed Diana's social media metrics, trending worldwide, 89% positive sentiment, key demographics responding favorably. Video clips showed her rescue edited to look heroic, but not more impressive than the Seven's usual work. Market analysis projected merchandising revenue in the hundreds of millions. They'd turned her first act of genuine heroism into a quarterly earnings forecast. The numbers don't lie, Homelander said, laser pointer highlighting Diana's projected value. You're testing through the roof with women 18 to 49, strong crossover appeal with men 25-54, and international markets are going crazy for the ancient warrior goddess angle. Ashley's team has already developed 3 separate marketing campaigns depending on which direction we take your brand. Ashley clicked through slides showing Diana in various costume redesigns, each one more sexualized than the last. Option A leans into classical mythology. Think Xena meets Victoria's Secret. Option B goes tactical, armored warrior princess with modern military aesthetics for that strong female demographic. Option C is what we're calling All-American Amazon. Red, white, and blue color scheme. Star motifs really emphasizing the patriotic defender angle. My armor is 3,000 years old and forged by Hephaestus himself, Diana said coldly. It will not be redesigned by marketing executives. Everything's negotiable, Homelander said, smile bright and threatening. But sure, we can work with the current look. It's iconic, classic. Little bit too much cleavage for family-friendly programming, but we'll make it work. Maeve snorted into her flask. Let's talk money, Ashley continued, pulling up a new slide. Standard 7 contract starts at $2 million annually, plus performance bonuses, merchandising percentages, and appearance fees. You'd also get the tower apartment, Vought health coverage, which is literally the best in the world since we have access to Compound V healing, car service, personal assistant, and full legal support. In exchange for what, precisely? Your image rights, hero designation, public appearances, participation in Vought-approved activities, and exclusivity clause preventing you from affiliating with non-Vought organizations or competing superhero teams. Ashley made it sound reasonable. Plus the standard NDA package and morality clauses. It's all in the contract. She slid a document across the table thick enough to stop bullets. Diana picked it up, flipping through pages of dense legal language designed to obfuscate rather than clarify. She'd negotiated with gods and warlords, but this corporate doublespeak was its own form of warfare. This contract gives Vought International ownership of my name, my likeness, and my actions, Diana said, reading one particularly egregious clause. It prevents me from speaking publicly without corporate approval. It allows Vought to control where I live, what I say, even who I associate with. That's standard for all 7 members, Ashley said quickly. Standard does not mean acceptable. Diana set the contract down. I will not sign this. The room froze. Even Maeve looked up from her flask, eyebrows raised. A-Train's mouth hung open. The Deep looked confused, as if the concept of refusing Vought had never occurred to him. Homelander's smile widened dangerously. I'm sorry, I don't think I heard that correctly. I will not sign a contract that makes me property of Vought International, Diana repeated calmly. I am not your product. I am not your employee. I am an Amazon, daughter of Hippolyta, and I bow to no corporate master. Right. Okay. Homelander nodded slowly, laser eyes starting to glow red beneath his lenses. So you're ungrateful. That's fine. Let me explain how this works in terms even an ancient warrior goddess can understand. You want to go home? You need Vaught's resources. You want to survive in this world? You need Vaught's legal protection. You want to actually help people instead of being hunted as an illegal alien superhuman threat? You need Vaught's legitimacy. His voice dropped to something cold and terrible. So you're going to sign that fucking contract, or you're going to find out what happens to people who say no to me. Diana stood slowly, hand moving to the lasso of truth at her hip. The golden cord pulsed with power, responding to her intent. I have a counter-proposal. I will work with the 7 on a trial basis. No contract, no ownership. I help people, you provide resources to find my way home. If after seeing how you operate I decide to join permanently, we negotiate terms as equals. Equals, Homelander repeated flatly. You think you're my equal? I know I am. The Deep laughed nervously. A train vibrated with barely contained speed, ready to run. Black Noir's hand moved fractionally toward his knife. Starlight looked terrified. Maeve just watched with the interest of someone waiting for an entertaining explosion. Homelander floated up from his chair, rising to hover above Diana. You know what? I've been curious about something ever since Queens. Let's find out exactly how strong you really are. He moved fast, superhuman speed that would have appeared as a blur to mortal eyes. His fist rocketed toward Diana's face with enough force to shatter concrete. Diana caught it. Her hand wrapped around his fist mid-strike, bracelets flashing as they absorbed the kinetic impact. The shockwave shattered the conference room windows, sending glass exploding outward into the Manhattan night. Homelander's eyes widened in genuine shock. Probably the first time in years someone had stopped his punch. I have fought Ares, god of war, Diana said quietly, still holding his fist. I have battled Darkseid, who destroys worlds. I have stood against armies and tyrants and beings that would make you weep. You are powerful, Homelander, but you are not a god. She released him and he stumbled back in the air, rage and confusion warring across his face. For a moment, Diana thought he would escalate. Laser through her skull, throw her through a wall, unleash whatever violence lay coiled beneath his corporate-mandated restraint. Instead, he laughed. Oh, you are fucking perfect, Homelander said. Grin manic now. Ashley, change of plans. Forget the standard contract. Diana here wants special treatment. She wants to be different. That's fine. We'll give her a provisional arrangement while she evaluates the 7. His eyes never left Diana's face. But here's the thing about provisional arrangements, Princess. They go both ways. We're evaluating you too. And if you don't measure up to 7 standards, well, let's just say the organization has ways of dealing with unsuitable candidates. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Homelander drifted toward the shattered windows, cape billowing in the rushing wind. 7 meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Welcome to the team, Diana. Try not to disappoint me. He flew out into the night, leaving chaos in his wake. Ashley immediately started screaming into her phone about window replacement and damage control. The Deep and A train evacuated fast, clearly wanting no part of whatever drama was unfolding. Black Noir remained motionless, head tilted as if reassessing Diana's threat level. Starlight approached carefully, voice barely audible over the wind. "You just punched Homelander." Technically, I caught his punch. Nobody catches Homelander's punches. Starlight looked terrified and awed in equal measure. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" "I established that I will not be intimidated." "You established that he's now obsessed with you," Maeve corrected, finishing her flask. "Homelander can't stand anyone being strong enough to challenge him. You just became his new favorite toy. That's either going to end with you dead or him completely fixated on breaking you. Sometimes both." Diana looked out at the city glittering below, millions of lights representing billions of lives these heroes were supposed to protect. "Then I will simply have to ensure he fails." Maeve laughed, dark and bitter. "God, you really don't know what you've walked into." She moved toward the door, pausing at the threshold. "That lasso on your hip, what does it do?" Diana's hand moved to the golden cord. "It compels truth from anyone it binds." "Truth," Maeve repeated softly. "In a building constructed entirely from lies. That's either the stupidest thing you could possibly have or the most dangerous weapon in New York City." She met Diana's eyes. "Welcome to the Seven, Princess. Try to survive long enough to realize which one it is." Diana spent her first night in Vought Tower researching. The apartment's smart TV provided access to countless hours of Seven footage, carefully edited rescues, celebrity interviews, corporate sponsorships. She watched Homelander laser through a terrorist compound while cameras caught every angle. She watched the Deep save a dolphin at a marine park press event. She watched Starlight light up a children's hospital like a living Christmas decoration. Every video was choreographed, every rescue was staged, every heroic moment was calculated for maximum brand impact. She found news coverage of incidents Vought hadn't promoted. A building collapse in Chicago where the Seven arrived 40 minutes after fire departments. A hostage situation in Los Angeles that ended with 12 dead civilians and a corporate statement about acceptable casualties in superhuman conflicts. 36 lawsuits against Vought quietly settled with NDAs attached. Video compilations of collateral damage, civilian deaths, and suspicious coincidences that suggested the Seven caused as many problems as they solved. This was the truth Annie had been too frightened to voice. The Seven weren't heroes. They were corporate assets whose primary function was generating profit through simulated heroism. Diana's hand moved to her lasso of truth. The golden cord pulsed warm against her fingers, thrumming with power. 3,000 years she'd wielded this weapon, compelling honesty from gods, warriors, and politicians. She'd used it to extract confessions, prevent wars, expose corruption. It was, fundamentally, anathema to everything Vought represented, which meant they would try to take it from her. The thought crystallized as she watched sunrise paint Manhattan gold through floor-to-ceiling windows. Vought would study her lasso, try to replicate it, eventually demand she surrender it for security analysis or brand integration testing. They'd couch it in friendly corporate speak, but the intent would be pure. Neutralize the one thing that could expose their entire empire of lies. Unless she struck first. Diana arrived at the Seven's morning meeting with a lasso of truth coiled at her hip and a plan forming in her warrior's mind. The conference room had been repaired overnight, new windows installed, glass cleaned, furniture replaced. The efficiency was impressive and deeply unsettling. Vought could erase evidence of superhuman violence as easily as editing a video. Starlight sat alone nursing coffee, looking exhausted. She startled when Diana entered, liquid sloshing. "Rough night?" Diana asked. "Every night's rough lately." Annie gestured at the empty room. "You're early again. I find it tactically advantageous." Diana took the seat beside her, noting how the young hero flinched slightly at the proximity. "Annie, I need to ask you something truthful. How did Vought recruit you?" Annie's eyes darted to the cameras, then back. That's not something I should..." Diana uncoiled the lasso of truth, letting it rest on the table between them. The golden cord seemed to glow faintly in the morning light, impossible and ancient. "This lasso compels honesty from anyone it touches. Absolute truth, no matter how painful. I'm telling you this freely so you understand what I'm offering. Answer my question willingly, or I will use my lasso to extract the truth anyway. The choice is yours." Annie stared at the lasso, then at Diana. Fear and hope warred across her face. "If I tell you the truth, they'll know. The cameras will show you speaking to me, nothing more." Diana leaned closer. "But I suspect the truth you've been carrying is poisoning you. I've seen warriors break under the weight of secrets they could not voice. Speak freely, and perhaps we can help each other." Annie's hands trembled around her coffee cup. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Vought found me at a Christian superhero pageant in Iowa. I was 16. They said I was special, that I could help people, that I could be a real hero like I'd always dreamed." Tears built in her eyes. "They didn't tell me that helping people was secondary to looking good for cameras. They didn't tell me that the Seven is just a corporate marketing team. And they definitely didn't tell me that on my first day, the Deep would corner me in the conference room and tell me I needed to..." Her voice broke. "That if I wanted to stay on the team, I needed to prove I was a team player." Diana's fist clenched. "He assaulted you." "He said it was hazing, that all the new members go through it, that if I told anyone, Vaught's lawyers would destroy me and my family." Annie wiped her eyes angrily. "I did what he wanted because I was terrified and alone and I didn't know what else to do. And then I found out that Vought knew. Ashley knew. Madeline fucking Stillwell knew. They all knew what he was, and they covered it up because the Deep's Q3 projections were too valuable to risk negative publicity." The door opened and Ashley burst in, moving at caffeinated speed, tablet clutched like a weapon. She froze when she saw Diana's lasso on the table and Annie crying. What's happening here?" Ashley's voice pitched high with panic. Diana stood smoothly, coiling the lasso back to her hip. Annie was sharing her experience joining the Seven. It was illuminating. "Right, okay. We have a counseling program for that. Very confidential, very supportive. Annie, if you need to talk to someone about your adjustment period, HR works for Vought," Diana interrupted. "HR's job is protecting the corporation, not the employee. You knew what the Deep did. You covered it up." Ashley's professional mask cracked slightly. "I don't know what Annie told you, but there are two sides to every... Do not lie to me." Diana's voice carried the weight of 3,000 years of warrior command. "I can see the truth in your body language, hear it in your voice. You knew he was a predator. You protected him anyway. It's not that simple. The Deep is a major brand asset. If we let every personal drama become a public scandal, the entire superhero industry would collapse." Ashley realized what she'd said and went pale. I didn't mean... Look, can we just focus on today's agenda? We have a photo shoot at 11, and I need Diana camera ready." Maeve walked in, looking marginally less drunk than yesterday, taking in the tension with weary eyes. "What did I miss?" "Diana found out the Deep is a rapist and Vought covers for him," Annie said quietly, voice steadier now that the truth was spoken. "Oh, that." Maeve dropped into her chair. "Yeah, everyone knows. He assaulted at least 3 women on Vought staff, 2 fans at Vought Life Expo, and probably more we don't know about. Vought settles the lawsuits, makes everyone sign NDAs, and keeps him on the team because he tests well with coastal demographics." Ashley made a strangled sound. "Maeve, you can't just..." These are confidential internal. I'm done protecting this company's bullshit, Maeve said flatly. Diana wants truth. Here's some truth. Vought International is a criminal organization that happens to have a superhero division. We cover up murders, fake rescues for ratings, and let our heroes commit assault, battery, and manslaughter because it's cheaper to pay settlements than lose merchandising revenue. Welcome to corporate heroism. The room fell silent except for Ashley's panicked breathing. Diana studied Maeve with new respect. The alcoholic had become that way for a reason. She'd seen too much, compromised too often, until drowning her conscience was the only way to survive. If you know all this, Diana said carefully, why do you stay? Because I signed a contract that gives Vought ownership of my hero identity for life. Because they have enough dirt on me to destroy any chance of a normal existence. Because I'm a coward who chose survival over integrity. Maeve met Diana's eyes. But you haven't signed anything yet. You could still walk away. And abandon Annie to this corruption. Leave millions to be exploited by manufactured heroes. Diana shook her head. I am Themyscira's champion. I will not flee from evil simply because fighting it is difficult. Then you're going to need that lasso, Maeve said. Because the rot goes deeper than you can possibly imagine. Vought isn't just covering up crimes. They're creating the superheroes, committing them. Before Diana could ask what that meant, Homelander glided through the door with his usual theatrical entrance. He wore his costume and his corporate smile, both equally false. His eyes found Diana immediately. Diana, glad you decided to show up. Ready for your first official day as Provisional 7 member? He noticed Annie's tear-stained face and his smile widened. Oh, Annie. Still crying about your adjustment period? You really need to develop thicker skin. Annie flinched. Diana's hand moved to her lasso. Actually, Diana said slowly, I think it's time we addressed some truth in this organization. She drew the lasso of truth, letting it uncoil in her hand. The golden cord glowed brighter now, responding to her intent and the ocean of lies filling the room. Homelander's expression shifted from mocking to alert. What's that supposed to be? My lasso compels absolute honesty from anyone it binds. Diana began walking slowly around the conference table toward him. No lies, no corporate spin, no carefully constructed narratives, just truth. Okay, that's cute, but... Diana moved with Amazonian speed, whipping the lasso out to wrap around Homelander's wrist before he could dodge. The golden cord contracted, binding him with magic older than civilization. Homelander's eyes went wide. He tugged experimentally, then harder. The lasso didn't budge. What the fuck? Get this off me. Answer my question truthfully, Diana commanded. Did you know the Deep sexually assaulted Starlight? Homelander's mouth opened to deflect, but different words came out against his will. Yes, Ashley told me about it. I thought it was funny. Annie gasped. Ashley started hyperventilating. Maeve sat forward, suddenly very interested. Diana pulled the lasso tighter. Does Vought International stage rescues for publicity? Yes. The word came out strangled. Half our rescues are PR ops. We let situations develop until cameras are ready. Do the 7 let people die for better footage? Sometimes, if saving them ruins the shot. Homelander was fighting now, physically straining against the lasso while his mouth betrayed him. We're not actually heroes. We're products. Vought taught me that when I was 6. The conference room door slammed open and Madeline Stillwell strode in with 10 security guards. She took in the scene. Diana with her glowing lasso wrapped around Homelander, Ashley having a panic attack, Maeve recording everything on her phone, and her professional smile never wavered. Diana, Madeline said calmly, you need to release him. Now. I will release him when I'm finished learning the truth about Vought International. Release him, or we'll have security forcibly remove that lasso. And trust me, you don't want to see how our enhanced containment team handles uncooperative supers. Diana met Madeline's eyes and saw pure calculation. The executive wasn't afraid. She was assessing, strategizing, already planning how to spin this incident into something manageable. "One more question," Diana said. She turned back to Homelander, whose face was red with rage and humiliation. "What is Compound V?" Homelander's entire body went rigid. His mouth worked, fighting against the compulsion, but the truth came anyway. The drug that makes superheroes. Vought injects it into babies. Every soup in America is a product of corporate experimentation. We're not special. We're manufactured. The silence that followed was absolute. Diana released the lasso, and Homelander stumbled back, gasping. He looked at her with pure murder in his eyes, laser vision starting to glow. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," he said quietly. "No," Diana replied. "I just learned the truth about yours." Madeline Stillwell's office was designed to intimidate through luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows showing Manhattan spread below, like a conquered kingdom, furniture that cost more than most houses, art that belonged in museums. Diana stood before the VP's desk, flanked by 2 guards in tactical gear, hands conspicuously near weapons designed to subdue superhuman threats. The message was clear. Guest or prisoner, the distinction was negotiable. "That was quite a performance," Madeline said, voice perfectly modulated between friendly and threatening, using alien technology to assault Homelander during a team meeting, extracting confidential corporate information, causing severe emotional distress to America's greatest hero. She smiled like a shark. "The legal team is very excited to discuss your liability exposure." "Your legal team can discuss it with my lasso," Diana replied. "I'm sure they'll be very honest about Vaught's criminal activities once it touches them." Madeline's smile never wavered, but something cold flickered in her eyes. "That lasso is a security risk. We'll need to confiscate it for analysis." "You will not." "Diana, let me be very clear about your situation. You're an undocumented alien with no legal status, no resources, and no allies in this world. You assaulted our most valuable corporate asset and extracted trade secrets using what amounts to torture. We could have you declared a superhuman threat and detained indefinitely. Or," Madeline leaned forward, "we could recognize this as a cultural misunderstanding. Ancient warrior meets modern corporation. Understandable friction. We smooth things over, you apologize to Homelander, and we move forward with the provisional arrangement. I will not apologize for exposing truth. Then you'll be explaining that truth to federal authorities who are very motivated to keep Vought happy." Madeline picked up her phone. "Should I make that call, or are we going to be reasonable?" Diana's hand moved to her lasso. The guards tensed, weapons rising fractionally. For a moment, the office balanced on the edge of violence. Then Homelander walked through the wall. He didn't bother with the door, just laser-visioned through the reinforced concrete and stepped through the smoking hole like it was a curtain. The guards immediately holstered weapons and found urgent business elsewhere. Madeline's professional mask slipped for just a moment, showing genuine fear before corporate control reasserted itself. "Homelander," she said carefully, "we're in the middle of—" "Get out!" His voice was flat, empty of the usual performative charm. "Both of you. Now." Madeline recognized a non-negotiable order from a nuclear weapon in human form. She stood smoothly, gesturing the guards toward the door. "Of course, Diana, we'll continue this conversation later." The office emptied in seconds, leaving Diana alone with the most dangerous soup in America. Homelander stood perfectly still, cape settling around him like wings, laser eyes dim but ready. She could smell ozone and rage. "You humiliated me," he said quietly. "In front of my team. In front of Ashley. You made me tell truths that could destroy everything I've built." I made you tell truths you've been hiding behind corporate lies and media manipulation. Same thing in this world, Princess. Homelander began to circle her slowly, predator assessing prey. Here's what you don't understand. I am Vought International's most valuable asset. I generate $7 billion annually in direct revenue. I have an 87% approval rating. I am functionally untouchable. When I kill people, and I do kill people more than you'd believe, Vought makes it disappear. When I destroy property, they pay settlements. When I fuck up, they spin the story until I'm the hero again. He stopped directly in front of her, floating to bring them eye level. You know what happens when someone actually challenges me? When someone proves they're strong enough to be a threat. His smile was terrible. I become obsessed with breaking them. It's happened before. Ask Maeve about her girlfriend Elena, the one I threatened to laser through a building if Maeve didn't comply with every single thing I wanted. Ask Black Noir about the time he questioned my leadership and I made him eat a bowl full of peanuts despite his allergy. Ask Stillwell about what happened the last time an executive tried to control me. Diana met his gaze without flinching. You're attempting to frighten me into compliance. It will not work. No, I'm explaining the situation so you understand what you've started. Homelander drifted closer, voice dropping to something intimate and horrible. You're strong. Really strong. Strong enough that I can't just laser you and move on. That's interesting. I haven't been interested in years. Everything's so easy, so boring, so fucking beneath me. But you... He reached out slowly, telegraphing the movement, and touched her face with shocking gentleness. You might actually be worth my time. Diana caught his wrist, not attacking, just preventing further touch. I am not your toy. Everyone's someone's toy in this world. The question is whether you're mine or Vaught's or your own. Homelander pulled his hand back, reassessing. Here's my offer. Forget the provisional arrangement bullshit. Join the Seven for real. Sign the contract, play the game, and I'll personally make sure you get everything you need to find your way home. Vaught's full resources, unlimited funding, whatever it takes. In exchange for what? Your loyalty, your obedience. His smile widened. Your acknowledgement that I am exactly what I claim to be, the most powerful being on this planet. Diana considered the offer, seeing through it to the narcissistic need beneath. Homelander didn't want a teammate or even a subordinate. He wanted validation from someone strong enough that their submission would mean something. I acknowledge that you are powerful, she said carefully. But power without restraint or morality is not strength. It is tyranny. Tyranny, heroism, corporate asset. Just words we use to describe the same thing. Homelander floated backward toward the smoking hole he'd made. You've got 24 hours to decide, Princess. Join me willingly, or I'll make your life in this world so miserable you'll beg Vought to send you home in pieces. He flew out through the hole, leaving Diana alone in the ruined office. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear. Amazons did not fear death, but from recognition. She'd faced Homelander's type before across 3,000 years of war. The conqueror who believed might made right, the tyrant who couldn't conceive of being wrong, the child god who'd never been told no, and she'd killed every single one. But this was different. Homelander wasn't leading armies she could defeat in open battle. He was protected by corporate infrastructure, public worship, and a legal system designed to shield him from consequences. Killing him, assuming she even could, would make her a murderer in the eyes of a world that saw him as a hero. Diana pulled out the phone Vought had provided, scrolling through the news. The story was already breaking. Mystery hero attacks Homelander in Vought Tower. The narrative was being controlled in real time. Some outlets called her dangerous, others questioned her mental stability, a few suggested she was a foreign agent. Vaught's media machine was turning her from rescuer to threat. A text message arrived from an unknown number. Rooftop garden. 1 hour. Come alone. Has Annie? Starlight wanted to meet away from Vaught's surveillance. Diana arrived at the garden with 15 minutes to spare, using the time to assess tactical approaches. The rooftop was designed as a publicity space. Carefully maintained greenery, strategic lighting, clear sight lines for cameras. Not private, not safe. Annie appeared exactly on time, changed into civilian clothes and a baseball cap that didn't disguise her at all. She looked terrified and determined in equal measure. "Thank you," she said without preamble, "for what you did with the lasso, for making them admit the truth. Nobody's ever..." Her voice cracked. "Nobody's ever stood up for me like that before. You deserve to be protected, Annie, not exploited." "Yeah, well, protection's not really Vaught's business model." Annie glanced around nervously. "Look, I can't stay long. Ashley's already suspicious that I'm talking to you, but I needed to warn you. Homelander's planning something. I don't know what, but he's been in Madeline's office all afternoon, and A-Train says he heard him laughing. That's bad. Homelander doesn't laugh unless he thinks he's won." Diana absorbed this, warrior instincts cataloging the threat. What would winning mean for him? Usually destroying whoever challenged him while making it look like he's the victim. Annie moved closer, voice dropping. "Diana, you need to understand. Homelander isn't just powerful. He's completely insane. He was raised in a lab, never had parents, never had anyone tell him no. Vought created a god complex in human form and gave him nuclear-level power. He's killed hundreds of people, and the company covers it up every single time. Then he must be stopped. He can't be stopped. Don't you get it? He's invulnerable. He can fly. He has laser vision that can cut through anything. And if you somehow manage to hurt him, he's threatened to laser entire cities. He's held the world hostage, and nobody can stop him because killing him means killing millions." Diana heard the desperation in Annie's voice. The hopelessness of someone trapped in an impossible situation. She'd heard that same tone from occupied populations under tyrannical rule, from people who'd given up hope of liberation. "Annie," she said gently, "I have fought tyrants for 3,000 years. They always seem invincible until the moment they fall. This isn't ancient history. This is corporate America with nuclear weapons, which makes the fight more complex, not impossible." Diana took Annie's hands. "I cannot promise I will succeed, but I can promise I will not abandon you to this corruption. You showed courage telling me the truth. I will show courage fighting for it." Annie's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want you to die trying to save me. Then help me understand the enemy. Tell me everything you know about Compound V." They met in Annie's apartment, smaller than Diana's, less luxurious, more lived in. Photographs from Iowa covered the walls. A Bible sat on the nightstand next to empty wine bottles, and the whole space reeked of someone trying to maintain their identity while it was systematically stripped away by corporate machinery. Annie made coffee with shaking hands, while Diana studied the photographs. A younger Annie at church events, beauty pageants, family gatherings. All smiles, all innocence, all before Vought had gotten its hooks in. "I grew up believing superheroes were chosen by God," Annie said, handing Diana a mug. "That we were meant to help people, to be beacons of hope in a dark world. My mom always said my powers were a gift, a calling." She laughed bitterly. "Turns out they were just the result of her injecting me with an experimental drug when I was a baby." Diana set down her coffee untouched. "Your mother gave you Compound V." She didn't know what it was. Vought recruits mothers from low-income areas, tells them it's a vitamin supplement that might improve their child's development. Most kids die or develop nothing. The ones who survive with stable powers get recruited young. Vaught's been doing it for decades, creating superheroes from scratch and pretending they're miracles. This is monstrous. This is business. Annie pulled out her phone, scrolling through files Diana suspected Vought would kill to suppress. "I started digging after what happened with the Deep. found message boards, support groups, people who've tried to expose Vought and disappeared. There's this whole network of people who know the truth but are too scared to go public. She showed Diana documents, leaked internal memos, financial records, testimony from families whose children had died in Compound 5 trials. The scope was staggering. Vought hadn't just created a few superheroes, they'd run a decades-long illegal human experimentation program that had killed thousands of children. Does the government know? Diana asked. Some do. The rest Vought owns through lobbying and blackmail. There's a congresswoman named Victoria Newman who's supposedly investigating Vought, but I don't trust her. Everything in this city is compromised. Diana studied the evidence, her warrior's mind processing tactical implications. This wasn't just corporate evil. This was systemic corruption requiring surgical precision to dismantle. Exposing Vought publicly would cause chaos, possibly violence, definitely political upheaval, but allowing it to continue made her complicit in ongoing atrocities. You want to use your lasso on Vought executives, Annie said, reading her expression. Make them confess everything publicly. The thought had occurred to me. They'll kill you first. Vought has an entire security division dedicated to handling superhuman threats. Enhanced weapons, Compound V soldiers, classified tech designed to neutralize SUPs. If you try a frontal assault on this company, you won't survive. Then I will be subtle. Annie laughed, sharp and cynical. You caught Homelander's punch in front of the Seven and made him confess to corporate crimes. Subtle ship has sailed. Diana smiled, despite the grim circumstances. Fair assessment. But I am trained in more than direct combat. Amazons are diplomats, strategists, infiltrators when necessary. If Vought is as corrupted as you suggest, there must be dissidents within, people with evidence, people with conscience, people willing to help dismantle the empire from inside. Like me, like you. Diana met Annie's eyes. You have access to Vought systems, relationships with other Seven members, public platform if needed. You are positioned to be instrumental in exposing this evil. I'm positioned to get myself killed. Annie's voice cracked. Diana, you don't understand what they do to people who betray Vought. There's this woman, I don't know her name, who tried to go public about Compound 5 years ago. Vought buried the story, destroyed her credibility, and she ended up dead in an apparent suicide. They make people disappear, and nobody questions it because they own the fucking narrative. Diana moved to sit beside Annie on the worn couch, her presence solid and reassuring. I understand your fear. It is rational. But fear is also how tyrants maintain power, by making resistance seem impossible, by isolating the brave, by crushing hope before it spreads. She touched Annie's shoulder. You are not alone anymore, and together we are significantly harder to silence. Annie wiped her eyes. You're really going to fight them, aren't you? Even though they can ruin you, kill you, make you disappear. I am. Why? This isn't even your world. You could just leave, find another dimensional portal or whatever, go home to your island of warrior women. Because evil is evil regardless of which world it poisons, Diana said simply. And because a young woman asked for help in the only way she knew how, by trusting me with truth. I will not betray that trust. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of conspiracy and corporate evil pressing down like atmosphere. Then Annie's phone buzzed with a notification that made her go pale. Fuck. Ashley's calling an emergency 7 meeting. Right now. She looked at Diana. You're ordered to attend. What do you think this is about? Nothing good. They arrived at the conference room to find the full 7 assembled plus a dozen Vought executives Diana didn't recognize. Madeline Stillwell stood at the head of the table looking like a woman who'd won a poker game nobody else knew was being played. Homelander lounged in his chair, radiating smug satisfaction. Diana, Madeline said warmly. Thank you for joining us on such short notice. We've had some developments that affect your provisional status. Diana remained standing, warrior instincts screaming danger. What developments? Madeline clicked a remote, and the screen behind her lit up with news footage. A building on fire, emergency responders racing toward the scene, chaos and screaming. The timestamp showed it was happening right now. There's a situation developing in Brooklyn. Chemical plant explosion, multiple casualties, extremely dangerous fire conditions. Madeline's smile was poison sweet. The 7 are responding immediately, including you. I am not properly integrated into your team structure, which is exactly why this is perfect. Trial by fire, literally. You claim you're here to help people. Prove it. Cameras will be watching, just like they watch all our rescues. You'll get your chance to be a real hero. Diana understood instantly. This was a trap. Either she'd refuse and Vought would paint her as a coward more interested in attacking Homelander than saving civilians, or she'd participate and they'd control her narrative, edit her footage, turn her into just another corporate asset. And if I succeed? Diana asked. Then we'll discuss a real contract, full 7 membership, all the resources you need to get home. Madeline leaned forward. But if you fail, if civilians die because you weren't prepared to work within our system, then you'll understand exactly why Vought's methods exist, why corporate structure and media management actually save lives. Homelander stood, cape swirling dramatically. Clock's ticking, princess. People are dying while you're overthinking, unless you don't actually care about helping people. Annie touched Diana's arm. It could be legitimate. Chemical plants do explode. But Diana saw the calculation in Madeline's eyes, the satisfaction in Homelander's smile. This rescue was staged or at minimum opportunistically exploited. They'd taken a real crisis and turned it into a test, a trap, a corporate performance with civilian lives as stakes. She thought of her mother's words. A princess does not choose between saving her people or fighting her enemies. She does both. I will help, Diana said, but I will not perform for your cameras. Oh, you won't have to perform, Homelander said, grinning. Just try to keep up. They flew toward Brooklyn in Vought's helicopter. Apparently not all 7 members could fly, and it looked better for team cohesion if they arrived together. Diana sat across from Homelander, who stared at her with disturbing intensity, while the rest of the team avoided eye contact. You're going to see how we actually operate, he said over the rotors. Not the edited footage, not the PR spin. Real superhero work in real conditions. And when you inevitably fuck up because you don't know our procedures, our backup plans, our coordination systems, when civilians die because you went rogue, you'll understand why Vought's control exists. Or I will prove that genuine heroism requires no corporate management. Can't wait to see you try. The helicopter descended into chaos. The chemical plant was an inferno. Flames shooting 50 feet high, fed by whatever toxic compounds were burning inside. Emergency responders had established a perimeter but couldn't get closer without protection from the heat and fumes. And the media was already there. News helicopters circling, cameras tracking everything. Ashley's voice crackled through their comms. 7, you're live in 30 seconds. Homelander, your lead on this. Diana, try not to steal focus from... Diana had already jumped from the helicopter. She hit the ground running, ignoring Homelander's shouted objection. The heat was intense even for her. Whatever was burning produced temperatures that would instantly incinerate normal humans. She could hear screaming from inside the plant. Workers trapped, dying, while the 7 coordinated their entrance for cameras. No. Diana crashed through a wall weakened by fire, her enhanced durability allowing her to survive temperatures that melted metal. The interior was hell. Flames everywhere, toxic smoke choking visibility, structural collapse imminent. She found the first worker trapped under a fallen beam, his legs crushed, already unconscious from smoke inhalation. She lifted the beam one-handed and carried him out through the wall she'd made. Homelander met her outside, floating above the flames with his arms crossed. "What the fuck are you doing? We had a plan." "Your plan involved letting him die for better footage," Diana said, already turning back. She made 4 more trips into the Inferno, each one bringing out workers Vaught's careful planning would have sacrificed for dramatic rescue timing. On the 5th trip, she found herself face to face with Homelander in a corridor of flame. "Stop upstaging me," he said, laser eyes glowing red. "This is my rescue, my media event, my chance to look like America's hero, and you're ruining it by actually saving everyone efficiently." "Then help me," Diana challenged. "Use your speed and strength to save more lives. Be the hero you claim to be." For a moment, she thought he might kill her right there. The murder was naked in his eyes, barely restrained by years of corporate conditioning that said dead heroes were bad for Q3 projections. Then his expression shifted to something calculating. "Fine, let's save everyone." His smile was terrible. "And then we'll let America decide which one of us is the real hero." They worked together with brutal efficiency, Diana pulling people from rubble while Homelander used laser vision to cut through wreckage and create evacuation routes. The rest of the 7 eventually joined, Maeve actually helpful. A-train racing supplies, even the deep-finding trapped workers with his aquatic senses somehow. When the last worker was evacuated and the fire was finally contained, Diana stood covered in soot and chemical burns already healing, looking at the news cameras capturing everything. She'd saved 17 people. The 7 together had saved 6. The edited footage released an hour later showed Homelander saving 12, Diana getting 4, and the 7 operating as a perfect unit. "See," Homelander said, appearing beside her on the rooftop where she'd retreated. "We saved everyone, and I still look like the hero. Because that's how this world works, Princess. I control the narrative. I always win." Diana watched the sun set over Brooklyn, her hands still shaking with rage. "You are a liar and a monster." "I'm an American hero with a 90% approval rating." He floated closer. "And you're a provisional team member who just learned her first lesson about corporate heroism. The truth doesn't matter if nobody believes it." Diana spent the next 2 days studying Vaught's empire from the inside. Ashley provided access to corporate systems under the guise of integration training, hero scheduling software, media management protocols, crisis response frameworks. What she really got was insight into exactly how Vought manufactured heroism and managed public perception. The algorithms were sophisticated. Crisis prediction models identified potential rescue opportunities based on probability calculations and media value. Response protocols optimized for maximum positive coverage rather than fastest civilian aid. Post-event analysis measured each hero's performance not by lives saved, but by social media engagement, brand sentiment, and merchandising impact. They'd turned saving lives into a spreadsheet optimization problem. Diana was reviewing incident reports when her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Sage Grove tour approved. Thursday 2 p.m. Transport arranged. MS Madeline Stillwell was following through on the research facility visit. Diana suspected this was another trap, another opportunity for Vought to control her narrative or discover her vulnerabilities. But she also needed to see where they conducted Compound V experiments. Needed to understand the full scope of their crimes. Thursday arrived with threatening clouds and the weight of impending decisions. The transport was a black SUV with tinted windows and a driver who wouldn't make eye contact. They drove for 90 minutes through increasingly rural Pennsylvania, eventually arriving at a facility that looked more like a prison than a research center. Sage Grove Center for Advanced Research was surrounded by security fencing, guard towers, and enough armed personnel to invade a small country. The main building was brutalist concrete with narrow windows, designed to keep things in rather than look welcoming. Diana's Amazonian senses detected fear and pain soaking into the very foundations. A woman in a white lab coat met her at the entrance. Dr. Emily Whitmore, Director of Superhuman Research. Ms. Stillwell asked me to provide you with a comprehensive tour of our facilities. I was told you study how to return me to my world, among other things. Please follow me. The interior was exactly what Diana expected. Sterile hallways, reinforced doors, security checkpoints every 50 feet. Dr. Whitmore led her past laboratories where technicians studied blood samples and monitored data she didn't understand. Everything looked legitimate, scientific, designed to suggest serious research. Then they reached the secure wing. This section houses our enhanced test subjects, Dr. Whitmore said, stopping before a massive steel door. Individuals who've received Compound V under controlled conditions. We study their development, monitor for instabilities, and occasionally test new variants. Test subjects, Diana repeated. You mean prisoners? Voluntary participants in approved research, Dr. Whitmore corrected, but her voice carried uncertainty. They both knew the truth. The door opened to reveal a corridor of reinforced cells, each one containing a person with superhuman abilities and nowhere to go. Diana saw a teenager whose skin crawled with electricity, pacing a cell that suppressed his powers, an elderly woman who phased through walls but couldn't phase through the specialized barriers keeping her contained. A child, a child, whose eyes glowed with radiation she couldn't control. These are the unstable cases, Dr. Whitmore explained, walking past cells like they contained experiments rather than people. Adult Compound V injection has a 70% fatality rate. Those who survive often develop powers they can't control or psychological breaks from the trauma. We study them to improve the formula. You torture them to refine your product. Dr. Whitmore stopped. I understand this looks cruel from an outside perspective, but Compound V has saved countless lives. Emergency workers with enhanced strength, soldiers with accelerated healing, first responders with useful abilities. The benefits outweigh the costs. The costs, Diana said quietly, are human beings screaming in cells. They continued the tour past laboratories, conducting experiments Diana found increasingly horrifying. Compound V variants tested on animals that died shrieking. Combat simulations where enhanced individuals fought to death for behavioral analysis. A morgue containing bodies too damaged to identify, casualties of Vaught's quest for perfect superheroes. Finally, Dr. Whitmore led her to a laboratory different from the others. Larger, with equipment Diana recognized as studying dimensional energy. Her warrior instincts went silent with recognition. This is our interdimensional research division, Dr. Whitmore said. When you arrived in New York, you generated an energy signature we've never seen before. Not Compound V-based, something older and more powerful. We've been studying the readings. The laboratory was filled with data about Diana, her arrival, her combat performance, thermal scans from the chemical plant rescue. They'd been analyzing her like an insect under glass, cataloging her abilities for future exploitation. Can you send me home? Diana asked. Honestly, we don't know. Your arrival was uncontrolled, chaotic. Replicating it would require understanding divine energy we've never encountered before. Dr. Whitmore pulled up a display showing swirling energy patterns. But if anyone has the resources to figure it out, it's Vought, assuming you're willing to cooperate with our research. Cooperate how? Blood samples, tissue biopsies, extended observation of your abilities under controlled conditions, full disclosure of your origin and power source. Dr. Whitmore smiled professionally. Standard procedure for unknown superhuman entities. Diana understood the real purpose of this tour. Vought didn't want to help her get home. They wanted to dissect her, study her, learn how to replicate divine power through corporate science. She was just another test subject waiting to be catalogued. "I need to see the rest of the facility," Diana said. "There isn't much more." "Show me where you keep the dangerous test subjects, the ones you can't control." Dr. Whitmore hesitated, then led her deeper into the facility. They descended 3 levels to a sub-basement that felt like descending into hell. The temperature dropped, lights flickered, and Diana heard screaming that had nothing to do with physical pain. "This is the high-security wing," Dr. Whitmore said quietly. "Test subjects who've developed abilities too dangerous for standard containment." The cells here were different. Thick steel, power dampeners, guards with weapons Diana suspected could kill even enhanced individuals. In one cell, a man whose body rippled with uncontrolled transformation. In another, a woman who radiated death, her powers killing anything that came within 10 feet. And at the end of the corridor, a girl who looked 16 with eyes that suggested something far older and infinitely more dangerous. "That's Cindy," Dr. Whitmore said. "Telekinetic, extremely unstable. She's killed 12 guards and 3 researchers. We keep her heavily sedated." Diana watched Cindy through the reinforced glass. The girl's eyes tracked her with desperate intelligence, recognizing another prisoner in a different cage. When their eyes met, Cindy mouthed 2 words: "Help me." "These people aren't test subjects," Diana said. "They're slaves. They're individuals too dangerous to exist in normal society. We provide care, containment, and study that might eventually cure their instabilities." Dr. Whitmore's professionalism was cracking. "What would you have us do? Release them to hurt innocent people? Give them choice, give them dignity. Stop treating them like products to be refined." "That's not how this works." "Then this is evil." Diana turned and walked back toward the exit. Dr. Whitmore followed, trying to explain corporate ethics and necessary evils, but Diana had stopped listening. She'd seen enough. Vought wasn't just creating superheroes through baby injections. They were running a network of illegal prisons containing people whose only crime was surviving corporate experimentation, and they wanted to add her to the collection. She made it to the parking lot before the trap sprang. The SUV that had brought her was gone. In its place stood a dozen guards in enhanced tactical gear, weapons trained on her with professional precision. Behind them, Homelander descended from the sky like a corporate angel of death. "Did you really think we'd let you walk around our most sensitive research facility without supervision?" he asked, smiling that terrible smile. "We saw you on security cameras, saw you sympathizing with test subjects, making moral judgments about necessary research. Saw you becoming exactly the kind of security risk we predicted." Diana's hand moved to her lasso of truth. "Let me leave?" "Sure, right after you agree to a few conditions." Homelander floated closer, guards maintaining their firing positions. "First, you submit to voluntary research, blood samples, tissue analysis, full cooperation with Dr. Whitmore's team. Second, you sign the 7 contract with no further negotiation. Third, you publicly apologize for assaulting me and acknowledge that Vaught's methods are necessary for public safety. And if I refuse, then these nice gentlemen will demonstrate what Vought does to superhuman threats who won't cooperate. Those weapons aren't loaded with normal bullets. They fire compound Vi variants designed to suppress enhanced abilities. Won't kill you, probably. But you'll wake up in a cell next to Cindy, and we'll study you whether you consent or not." Diana assessed the tactical situation. Dozen guards with specialized weapons, Homelander hovering with laser vision ready, reinforced facility behind her, nowhere to run. A cornered position any warrior would recognize as suicide to fight from, which meant this was exactly when she needed to fight. She drew the lasso of truth and whipped it toward Homelander in one fluid motion. He dodged easily, too fast for the lasso to catch, but the golden cord wrapped around the nearest guard instead. The man gasped as truth compulsion hit. "Tell me what's really in those weapons," Diana commanded. "Compound V variant that shuts down enhanced physiology by attacking the biological markers Vought scientists identified as common to all Supes, he said mechanically. Fatal to anyone injected as babies, temporary paralysis for anyone with natural abilities. Diana released the guard and he stumbled back, horrified at what he'd revealed. The other guards hesitated, uncertain. Homelander's smile vanished. Shoot her. Now. They fired. Diana's bracelets flashed as she deflected the first volley, specialized darts bouncing off divine metal. She couldn't dodge them all, wasn't fast enough against massed gunfire, but she could protect her vital areas long enough to... Pain exploded in her shoulder as a dart got through her guard, then another in her leg. The world tilted sickeningly, her enhanced strength draining like water through her fingers. She stayed standing through pure will, refusing to give Vought the satisfaction of seeing her kneel. Homelander landed in front of her, grabbing her chin roughly. That's better. Now you're going to learn exactly what happens to people who challenge Vought International. Diana's vision swam, but her voice stayed steady. Annie knows where I am. Queen Maeve knows. If I disappear, they'll talk. They'll do what they're told, or they'll disappear too. Homelander dragged her toward the facility. Welcome to Sage Grove, Princess. Enjoy your stay. The last thing Diana saw before unconsciousness took her was Cindy's face pressed against her cell window, watching another prisoner arrive. Diana woke in darkness, head pounding, body weak from whatever Vought had injected her with. She was in a cell. She could feel the reinforced walls even blind, the power dampeners humming just beyond her hearing range. Her armor was gone, replaced with a plain gray jumpsuit. The lasso of truth was missing. Panic tried to surface, but Amazonian discipline held. She'd been captured before across 3,000 years of war. Capture was temporary. Escape was inevitable if she stayed calm and assessed. The lights came on suddenly, harsh fluorescence revealing a cell identical to the ones she'd seen housing test subjects. Reinforced walls, camera in the corner, single bed bolted to the floor, toilet with no privacy. A prison designed to break spirits as efficiently as it contained bodies. Good morning, Diana. Madeline Stillwell's voice came from a speaker she couldn't see. I hope you slept well. You've been out for 18 hours. Diana stood, testing her balance. The compound V variant was wearing off, but her divine powers felt muted, suppressed by the cell's dampening technology. She was still stronger than humans, still durable, but operating at maybe 60% capacity. The lasso, she said. Where is it? Safe in our research division. Fascinating artifact, by the way. Our scientists think it operates through quantum entanglement at the neurological level. Forces truthful neural pathways to activate regardless of conscious will. We're very excited to study it further. It will not work for you. The lasso is bound to me by divine magic. Everything works eventually if you have the right experts and funding. But that's not why I'm here. The speaker crackled. Diana, you've put us in a difficult position. You're too dangerous to release, too valuable to eliminate, and too stubborn to convert into a proper corporate asset. So we need to have a conversation about your future. My future involves escaping this cell and exposing Vaught's crimes. Your future involves spending the rest of your very long life in that cell if you don't reconsider your position. Madeline's voice carried absolute certainty. We've contained soups more powerful than you. We have entire research divisions dedicated to studying and controlling enhanced individuals. You're not special, Diana. You're just another data point in our endless quest to perfect the superhuman experience. Diana moved to the cell door, examining the locks. Electronic, redundant systems designed by people who'd contained telekinetics and phase shifters, but designed by humans who didn't understand divine engineering or Amazonian training. You want to make a deal, Diana said, working while she talked. That's why you're explaining my situation instead of just studying me. Smart, yes, I want to make a deal. Papers rustled on Madeline's end. You're worth more to us as a willing participant than a hostile prisoner. Willing participants cooperate with research, appear at press events, generate positive publicity. Hostile prisoners require resources to contain and produce nothing but liability. What do you want? Sign the 7 contract, participate in our research program. Use your lasso during authorized operations to extract confessions and information that benefit Vaught's security operations. Do that, and you'll get a comfortable apartment, regular missions, and full access to our interdimensional research team. Diana found what she was looking for, a microscopic flaw in the door seal where pressure might force separation. And if I refuse, then you stay in that cell forever while we study you anyway. Less pleasant, same results for our research division. You cannot hold me permanently. We're holding 47 enhanced individuals in this facility right now. Most have been here for years, some for decades. We're very good at permanent. Diana began applying pressure to the floor, using strength she wasn't supposed to have in a dampened cell. The seal started to crack microscopically. Diana, Madeline's voice took on warning. Whatever you're doing, stop. That cell is monitored by 14 sensors, and 6 guards are stationed outside. You won't make it 10 feet. Then you have nothing to worry about. She wrenched the door open with a shriek of tortured metal. Alarms immediately blared. Diana stepped into the corridor to find guards rushing toward her with those specialized weapons raised. She dodged the first volley, using the narrow hallway to limit their firing angles and close the distance before they could reload. The fight was brutal and efficient. Diana disarmed the first guard with a strike that shattered his weapon, threw him into 2 others, and kept moving. More guards poured from adjoining corridors, but she'd been trained by the greatest warriors in history. She knew how to fight outnumbered in confined spaces. A dart hit her back, then another. The Compound V variants weren't as effective as the first dose, but they still hurt, still slowed her. She grabbed a guard's weapon and smashed it against the wall, buying seconds before they brought up reinforcements. Then she heard it, a voice from one of the cells. Left corridor, 3rd door, they keep confiscated items there. Cindy, the telekinetic girl, was helping her. Diana sprinted left, dodging fire, and kicked through the 3rd door. The room beyond was storage, racks of weapons, equipment, and in the corner, glowing golden in the dim light, her lasso of truth. She grabbed it, and power surged back. The lasso recognized its wielder, responded to her need, and suddenly the dampeners meant nothing. Diana was whole again. Everyone stop, she commanded, whipping the lasso out to wrap around the nearest guard. Tell me how to free the prisoners. The guard struggled, but truth came anyway. Master control panel, 2nd floor, requires 2 admin codes entered simultaneously. Homelander crashed through the ceiling. He descended in a shower of debris and broken concrete, landing between Diana and the exit. His costume was immaculate despite the violence, his smile terrible. Impressive, he said. Most people don't make it out of their cells. But breaking out just proves you're exactly the threat we suspected. I am leaving, Diana said, with all the prisoners you're illegally holding. No, you're really not. Homelander's eyes began to glow. Last chance, princess. Come quietly, or I laser through your skull and we study your corpse instead. Diana met his gaze without fear. I have fought gods and monsters for 3,000 years. You are neither. You're a child given too much power and no discipline. Wrong answer, he fired. Twin beams of concentrated energy that could cut through steel and concrete and human flesh like it was paper. Diana raised her bracelets and deflected the lasers, divine metal absorbing and redirecting energy that should have killed her. The reflected beams carved through walls, setting off more alarms. Homelander's smile faltered. What the fuck? Diana whipped her lasso toward him. He dodged, but she'd anticipated that, redirecting mid-swing to catch his ankle. The golden cord wrapped tight, and Homelander crashed to the ground, stunned more by being caught than actual pain. "Truth time," Diana said, advancing on him. "Tell me how to free these prisoners." "Fuck you." Homelander tried to resist, but the compulsion was absolute. "Master control panel, second floor. Codes are in Stillwell's office safe." "How many other facilities does Vought operate like this one?" 4 in America, 6 internationally. We study approximately 400 enhanced individuals across all sites. 400 slaves, Diana corrected. She heard boots coming. More guards. Maybe military. This facility would have protocols for breakouts, armed response that would try to kill her or die trying. She made a decision. Diana released Homelander and ran toward the prisoner wing. Cindy's cell was first. She tore the door off its hinges. "Can you use your abilities?" Diana asked. Cindy's eyes lit with terrible power. "Oh yes." They moved through the wing like a storm, Diana ripping open cells while Cindy used telekinesis to shred the dampening equipment. The electrical man, the phasing woman, a dozen others with powers they'd been forced to suppress. Each prisoner joined the escape, adding their abilities to the chaos. Homelander recovered and came at them again, laser eyes blazing. But now he faced not just Diana, but 15 angry supes who'd been tortured by Vought and had nothing left to lose. They swarmed him, electricity arcing, telekinetic force crushing, phase-shifted attacks he couldn't dodge. Even Homelander couldn't fight that many enhanced individuals simultaneously. Diana found the master control panel and smashed through it with her fist. Every cell in Sage Grove opened simultaneously, freeing 47 prisoners into corridors filled with guards who were very suddenly and very thoroughly outmatched. The riot was absolute chaos. Compound V enhanced individuals with grudges and trauma and powers they'd been forced to contain ran screaming through a research facility that had tortured them. Diana tried to maintain order, but rage was a tide she couldn't contain. "We need to leave," she shouted at Cindy, "before Vought sends more heroes or military." "Let them come," Cindy snarled, tearing through a wall with telekinesis. "We're done running." Diana grabbed her shoulder. "Then Homelander will kill everyone here and Vought will spin it as a terrorist attack. If you want revenge, you need to survive long enough to expose them publicly." Cindy hesitated, rage warring with reason. Finally, she nodded. They led the freed prisoners out through the hole Cindy had made, emerging into Pennsylvania twilight, with alarms screaming behind them. Military helicopters were already approaching. Diana could hear Homelander somewhere in the wreckage, screaming promises of violent death. A van screeched to a halt nearby, side door sliding open. A British voice shouted, "Get in if you don't want to be Swiss cheese." Billy Butcher grinned at her from the driver's seat while Huey Campbell stared in shock at the crowd of freed soupies. "Heard you might need an extraction," Butcher said. "Fucking diabolical timing, innit?" Diana had approximately 3 seconds to decide if the boys were salvation or just a different flavor of exploitation. She looked at the freed prisoners, at Cindy's desperate hope, at the military helicopters approaching with weapons that would kill most of these people. She grabbed Cindy and jumped in. "Go. Now!" The van peeled out just as Homelander burst from the facility, wreathed in rage and laser fire. But they were already gone, swallowed by Pennsylvania back roads that the boys knew better than any Vought pursuit team. Diana had just declared war on the most powerful corporation in America, and she'd done it by allying with terrorists who wanted to kill all soups. The irony wasn't lost on her. The boys' hideout was exactly what Diana expected. A condemned building in Queens, furniture salvaged from dumpsters, technology that looked stolen, and the smell of takeout food and barely contained violence. Butcher had them sweep 3 times for tracking devices before finally allowing the freed prisoners inside. 47 enhanced individuals crammed into a space designed for maybe 10. Most were traumatized, many were injured, all were terrified. Diana found herself playing medic and counselor, using battlefield triage skills learned across millennia, while Butcher's team secured the building. "Right," Butcher said once everyone was settled. "Let's establish some ground rules. First, nobody uses their powers without permission. This building's barely standing, and I don't need some telekinetic twat bringing it down on our heads. Second, nobody leaves without clearance. Vaught's got facial recognition everywhere, and you're all officially dead or disappeared. Third, you do what I say when I say it, or you're out on your arse. Clear?" The prisoners nodded, too exhausted to argue with the man who'd just helped them escape corporate hell. Butcher turned to Diana. "You, warrior princess, we need to talk. Private." They went to what Butcher generously called his office. A room with a desk, a laptop held together with duct tape, and walls covered in surveillance photos of the Seven. Diana recognized the obsessive focus of someone who'd made revenge their entire identity. "Tea?" Butcher offered, pouring without waiting for an answer. "Listen, I know what you're thinking. Who's this handsome British bastard, and why should I trust him?" Fair question. Short answer, you shouldn't. I'm a right proper cunt who'll do absolutely anything to kill Homelander and burn Vought to the fucking ground. But right now, our interests align. You want to use me as a weapon against Supes. Use is such a harsh word. I prefer collaborate with in pursuit of mutual goals. Butcher sipped his tea. "See, I've been hunting these corporate super freaks for years. Got close a few times, watched them slip away because Vaught's got more lawyers than I've got bullets. Then you show up, actual powers, not compound V shite. Can't be controlled by their usual methods. You're exactly what I've been waiting for. I am not interested in killing all Supes. Didn't say you were, but you are interested in exposing Vaught's crimes, freeing their victims, and holding corporate supervillains accountable. That's close enough for government work." Diana studied the wall of photos. Homelander featured prominently, but so did others. Queen Maeve, the deep, black noir. Each photo connected by red string to evidence of crimes, cover-ups, civilian casualties. "This is a man consumed by revenge," she observed. "Yeah, well, revenge is what happens when the love of your life gets raped by a corporate superhero, and you can't do fuck all about it because the company owns the justice system." Butcher's voice went flat. "My wife Becca, Homelander attacked her 8 years ago. Vought covered it up, paid her off, made her sign NDAs so comprehensive she couldn't even tell me the truth. She disappeared into Vaught's witness protection program, and I've spent every day since trying to find her and kill the cunt who destroyed our lives." Diana heard the pain beneath the rage, recognized a warrior broken by loss. "I'm sorry. Save your sympathy. I don't want pity. I want results." Butcher pulled out a file thick with documents. "These are the people we've identified who might testify against Vought if they had protection from retaliation. Scientists who worked on Compound V, families of victims, former employees who saw too much. None of them will go public without guarantee of safety. You've got that magic lasso that makes people tell truth. Use it on enough Vought executives, get enough confessions on camera, and we could actually build a case that forces government action. Or we could trigger corporate retaliation that kills everyone who helps us. There's always that risk in revolution, love." Butcher grinned without humor. "But here's the thing. Vaught's already hunting you, already wants you in a cell or dead. Fighting back doesn't increase your danger, just gives you agency in how you're destroyed." Diana couldn't argue with that logic. She'd escaped Sage Grove, but Vought would come for her. They'd come for everyone in this building. The question was whether she'd hide like prey or fight like the warrior she was. Huey Campbell entered carrying pizza boxes and looking thoroughly out of his depth. "Food's here. Also, Diana, some of the freed soups are asking for you. Cindy specifically wants to talk." Diana found Cindy on the roof, staring at New York's skyline with the look of someone seeing freedom for the first time in years. The telekinetic girl had cleaned up but still wore the institutional pallor of long captivity. "Thank you," Cindy said without turning, "for getting us out. Most people wouldn't risk themselves for strangers. Most people are not Amazons trained to fight injustice." "Amazons? Right, you're actually from another world." Cindy laughed bitterly. "And you're still a better hero than anyone in the Seven." Diana joined her at the roof's edge. "What will you do now?" "Honestly, I don't know. I've been in that cell for 3 years. Before that, I was in foster care, group homes, juvenile detention when my powers manifested, and I couldn't control them. I've never been free." Cindy turned to face her. "But I know what I won't do. I won't let Vought recapture me. I won't let them win, even if fighting them kills me. It might, I know, but dying free beats living in a cell." They stood in silence, watching the city lights come on like stars. Somewhere out there, Vought was mobilizing. Homelander was planning revenge. Madeline Stillwell was calculating how to spin this catastrophe, and 47 freed prisoners were depending on Diana to protect them from corporate retaliation. The odds were insurmountable. The enemy was entrenched. The path forward led through violence and moral compromise, and quite possibly failure. Diana smiled. "I have a plan," she said. 2 days later, Diana stood outside Vought Tower wearing her restored armor and carrying her lasso of truth. News helicopters circled overhead. Every major media outlet had cameras trained on the entrance. Social media was exploding with speculation about the Vought breakout and mysterious warrior woman who'd led it. She'd called this press conference herself, live streaming from 15 different platforms simultaneously, impossible for Vought to shut down completely. Beside her stood Annie January in civilian clothes, no longer Starlight the corporate hero, and flanking them were a dozen freed Sage Grove prisoners willing to tell their stories. Ashley Barrett ran out first, screaming something about unauthorized press events and corporate property. Diana ignored her. "My name is Diana of Themyscira," she said into the cameras. 2 days ago, I freed 47 people from illegal imprisonment at Vought International's Sage Grove research facility. These people were injected with Compound V without consent, experimented on without mercy, and held prisoner without charges or trial. Today, they will tell their stories. Today, Vought will answer for its crimes. Homelander descended from the sky to land between Diana and the cameras, cape billowing dramatically, smile bright and threatening. "Diana, Diana, Diana. This is embarrassing. Breaking into secure research facilities, freeing dangerous criminals, making wild accusations about America's finest superhero company." He turned to the cameras. "What you're witnessing is a mentally unstable individual having a very public breakdown. Sad, really. We tried to help her, offered her a place with the Seven, but some people just can't be saved." Diana smiled and drew her lasso of truth. "Then let's test that theory. Homelander, if you're telling the truth, you'll have no problem allowing my lasso to verify your statements." The cameras zoomed in. The world held its breath. Homelander's smile froze. "I don't need to prove anything to you." "Then you're admitting you're lying." The standoff held for 3 heartbeats. Then Diana whipped the lasso out, faster than he could dodge, wrapping it around his wrist. Homelander pulled, but the divine cord held, magic trumping super strength. "Tell the truth," Diana commanded. "Does Vought International create superheroes by injecting babies with Compound V?" Homelander's face went red with rage, but his mouth moved independently. "Yes." The media erupted. Diana pulled the lasso tighter. "Has Vought covered up crimes committed by the Seven?" "Yes, hundreds of them." "Does the Seven stage rescues for publicity?" "Yes." "Are there other facilities like Sage Grove holding enhanced individuals prisoner?" 10 total. We study anyone who shows interesting abilities." Diana released him, and Homelander stumbled back, laser eyes glowing red with murder. For a moment, she thought he'd attack anyway, public cameras be damned. Instead, he flew straight up and vanished into the clouds. Diana turned back to the cameras. Vought International has spent decades running illegal human experiments, creating superheroes through corporate science, and covering up crimes committed by their products. I have evidence, I have witnesses, and I have 47 freed prisoners who will testify about their experiences. You will also have corporate lawyers, PR spin doctors, and media control. Madeline Stillwell's voice said from behind her. The VP emerged from the tower, flanked by security. Everything you just showed will be explained away by our legal team within the hour. Homelander was clearly under duress. Your lasso could be technology that forces false confessions. This whole event will be spun as a terrorist attack on American heroes. Then I'll use my lasso on you next. Go ahead. Then I'll have you arrested for assault. You're strong, Diana, but you can't fight the entire justice system. Madeline's smile was poison. Vought has survived worse than one angry princess with delusions of heroism. Diana knew she was right. Exposing Vaught's crimes in public was only the first battle. The war would be fought in courts, media, political offices. It would take years, cost lives, possibly fail completely. But failures only happened when people stopped fighting. Annie, Diana said, tell them. Annie stepped forward, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of someone done hiding. My name is Annie January. Most of you know me as Starlight, and I'm here to testify that everything Diana said is true. Other 7 members emerged, Maeve looking sober for the first time in years, even Black Noir stepping forward silently in solidarity. Not all of them, not the Deep or A-Train, but enough. Enough to make people question. Enough to start the tide turning. Madeline's professional mask cracked. You're all finished. Vought will destroy every single one of you. Perhaps, Diana said, but we will be destroyed telling the truth. And that is more heroic than anything the 7 have done while lying. The press conference lasted 4 hours. Testimonies from freed prisoners, evidence presented by Butcher's team, video footage from Sage Grove leaked by sympathetic employees. By the end, Vaught's stock had dropped 40% and emergency congressional hearings were being called. It wasn't victory. Vought was too entrenched, too powerful, too skilled at surviving scandals. But it was a beginning. Diana stood on that rooftop, later watching sunset paint Manhattan gold. Annie beside her, Cindy and the other freed prisoners, gradually learning what freedom meant. Somewhere, Homelander was planning revenge. Somewhere, Vought was strategizing damage control. Somewhere, the boys were preparing for the next battle. The war against corporate evil was far from over. If anything, it was just beginning. But Diana had fought impossible wars before. She'd stood against empires and tyrants and beings that claimed to be gods. And she'd learned that impossible battles were only impossible until someone was brave enough to fight them anyway. What happens now? Annie asked. Diana smiled. Now we show this world what real heroes look like. Diana never made it back to Themyscira. The dimensional breach that brought her to a world of corporate heroes and manufactured justice remained closed, its secrets locked somewhere in Vaught's classified research. But perhaps that was as it should be. Her mother had sent her to man's world to bring truth and justice. This world needed both more desperately than she could have imagined. The fight against Vought became her new war. Congressional hearings exposed decades of illegal experimentation, though corporate lawyers delayed actual prosecutions. Public opinion shifted, but slowly. Years of propaganda couldn't be undone overnight. Homelander remained free, protected by Vaught's legal machinery and America's unwillingness to believe their greatest hero was a monster. Some battles she won, others she lost, but she never stopped fighting. Annie January left the 7 and became Diana's partner in what media called the Truth Initiative, using Diana's lasso to expose corruption wherever it festered. Queen Maeve joined them eventually, trading alcoholism for purpose. Even some of Vaught's victims became allies, freed prisoners like Cindy, who discovered that surviving corporate evil meant fighting to prevent others from suffering the same fate. The Seven itself began to fracture. A train sought redemption. The deep remained pathetic. New heroes joined with uncertain loyalties, and Homelander grew increasingly unstable as his perfect corporate image crumbled under truth's relentless exposure. Butcher's boys operated in the shadows still, violent and uncompromising, sometimes allies and sometimes obstacles when their methods conflicted with Diana's principles. The relationship was complicated. Revolutionaries and warriors fighting the same enemy with different weapons. Vought survived because corporations always survived. They rebranded, restructured, spun new narratives about reformed practices and renewed commitments to transparency. But they never fully recovered their stranglehold on heroism. Diana had proven that real heroes existed outside corporate control. And that proof changed everything. Years later, when asked if she regretted staying in this world instead of returning home, Diana would smile and look at the people she'd freed, the corruption she'd exposed, the children who now grew up knowing superheroes could be held accountable. "I am Amazon," she would say. "We go where justice is needed most, and this world needed me." The empire of lies still stood, but it would fall. Diana had 3,000 years of patience and the lasso of truth. Vought had quarterly earnings reports and corporate lawyers. Time would tell which proved stronger. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.